the awesome strength of the powers that be most certainly will be felt. To tell them that the priorities and performances on the par. It's poetic to hear them describe to you who you are. First of all, you're a megalomaniac, a power seeker, a crazy or a crack, troublemaker. And if you tell them that the economy is no longer in full bloom, then you become a prophet of doom and gloom.
Yes, indeed, of course. Pardon the voice for tonight. But of course, you know, sometimes when you stress and you expand and you sort of force, you get, of course, results like this. But that doesn't mean that we must not, of course, continue with what we have to do. After all, necessity is the mother of invention. And of course, we have a very critical, a very important, a very salient, but of course not assailable mission to make certain that good governance is restored, honesty, ethical standards are returned to the politics of Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, there are those who may question that it has never been so, particularly under the PNM, including, of course, the presence then of Eric Williams, the founding father, some say of the nation, but certainly of the PNM. But the fact of the matter is that we have a situation that is totally unacceptable. It cannot be thrown into, of course, the precarious column of that we could do nothing about it. No, we have a duty to do something about it. We are intelligent enough as a people. We are concerned enough as individuals in a society. And of course, all of us must be concerned about the direction in which the country is going. And therefore, in such circumstance, we have a duty and responsibility to respond as a community. However, whilst respecting the rule of law and working within the confines of the law, we know those who are in government now and don't want to leave, as they, of course, pursue their auto coup. Auto coup, of course, is a group of individuals, in this case, of course, the PNM and the political party, having gotten into government, they're using the state resources in order to stay in government. Yes, that is what is happening with the PNM. We know that. And while they accuse others of what they are doing at one point in time in the past, they seem to be on a course to outdo and to overstate and to, of course, make certain that they exacerbate according to them, the imperative to stay in government. The people must now decide, like Tobago did, regardless of their attempts to stay in government longer than they ought to have been, because as far as I'm concerned, they should have been out of office with the 2020 general elections. But I suppose, of course, as some people say, the Vox Populi, Vox Dei, the voice of the people, the voice of God. Well, clearly, he gives you, of course, a government at times where you become much, much more conscious of what not to do, of who ought not to be in government. And so it is clear that it's Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the UNC that must be returned, because when you compare the management of the country, the moral and ethical and the adherence to the rule of law, the separation of powers, and the respect for independent institutions, there is no other course of action that can be taken but that of making certain that the Kamala Prasad Bisesa and the UNC and whatever configuration for the electoral purposes comes into being, with the UNC being the anchor of this whole process. That being as it may, welcome to the corridor transformation, the Saturday edition. Yes, I had a wonderful time last night. We're going to talk about that a little later, but of course, we want to get right into, of course, the issues that are at hand. Nonetheless, the lines are also open, 337-6940. We have not yet regularized, or put another way, upgraded to have another number, but we are working on it. That being as it may, we will work with what we have, because we have a duty and responsibility to rescue Trinidad and Tobago. I want to say to the young people, get your ID organized. It's only this way, like a lotto, you will have a chance to influence the outcome of the elections and therefore influence your own future moving forward. So we have a bumper program tonight as well. Once again, a pleasant good night to all and sundry, East, West, North, South, Central, our friends in Tobago, and wherever you are, streaming on the World Wide Web, a pleasant good day to you. Yes, I have a little problem with the voice, but I'm sure that it is tolerable. Yes, indeed.
That is a very dangerous move, cause you become wicked and nefarious, counter-revolutionary, disciple of Judas, enemy of the country. You're branded as an imposter, masquerading in borrowed bloom, but everybody know you're a prophet of doom and gloom.
You see, in my years of walking this earth, observing people and their ways, I've come to realize something profound. Intelligence isn't just about how much you know, it's about how you live, how you treat others, and how well you learn from your mistakes. But here's the twist. There are certain unmistakable signs, 6 of them to be exact, that reveal when someone is, well, let's just say, lacking in wisdom.
Yes, I thought we should start tonight with a bit of philosophical positioning, because it is important that we understand what wisdom is and why it is that other people, like the PNM, for example, in this case, take people for fools. So let's say a little bit about the Stoic principle about what wisdom is. I think it's important that we look at that.
Join me on this journey of discovery. Together we'll uncover the 6 undeniable signs of a foolish person, each carrying a lesson, a story, and a mirror for us.
Yesterday, of course, a pleasant good night to all. Well, a pleasant good night to you, my friend. Let me put it that way. Sorry about that. A pleasant good night.
A pleasant good night to you, Uncle X, and all your listeners.
Yes, man. Yes, man.
And all your contributors.
Yes.
And share the live. We need the 40,000 to go up. So let's be a part of our organization.
Thank you for reminding me and them of the 40,000 target. In spite of my impaired voice, let me put it that way. But go ahead.
So on the topic wisdom, I like this topic tonight. So I will try to make myself an impalpable fool that tell Chicken Licken that the world is fallen. Who will help me grind the wheat?
I hear you, my friend.
So here what's going on now. For the last 9 years, you are doing human service. And in that 9 years, we passed 2 elections. And you have told the citizens of this country, and you educate them and show them where the Keith Rowley-led administration by the finance minister Colin Idbert, how they are misappropriating and making funds disappear without any substantial items to show for it. For example, Marlene McDonald Community Center, which she built in heaven. She built that community center in heaven.
Or is it hell? It could be more hell, you know.
Then that's right. That's time to be corrected. I feel as in hell.
Yeah, that's right. Go ahead, by the way. Yeah, that's a more appropriate characterization of the situation. Go ahead.
So, and when you try to give them the wisdom and knowledge to educate them that it should have never built in hell, It should have built in paradise on earth in heaven, so that the human can touch it, feel it, and be a part of it. And what a government is consists of. So in all what India and the nations are saying, I want to ask the listeners, could anybody tell me why India want to be re-elected for? We go back up for election and be re-elected? To do what? What Kyoto want to be re-elected to be what? Because for the last 9 years, the leaders say we know for them. And their supporters and the sycophants say they're not supposed to give us goods and services. They're not supposed to provide health care. So what I want to ask now, that when Rowley is leaving, could he tell us who is the minister in charge of the airport terminal in Tobago project, the wait for under, if it have any course overrun? And the pedophile report, could he make it public? Could he tell us about Darrell Smith? And could he tell us what is the deal with this company, Orlando? And if our citizens will have the qualification to work in that refinery. So have a pleasant good night to you, Uncle Lennox.
Thank you
so I'll
very
give
much.
way to others.
Yes, man, thanks very much for that introductory. And you have said the ball are rolling, so to speak. But certainly, the topic of fools tonight, and the whole purpose is for persons to do some introspection, to watch at yourself. But more importantly, whether or not those factors that will make a human being, and therefore a group of individuals, in this case the PNM, see its population, or not its population, but the population of Trinidad and Tobago as fools. I think we will be closer, of course, to the realization, and therefore divesting ourselves, wiping the yampi, so to speak, to use a colloquial expression, from our eyes and see the PNM for who they are. Because you see, I've always said that what they avoid telling us speaks volumes. Like, for instance, they will tell us that the economy is doing well, but they will never say that they met $12 billion US in reserve, and that they met, of course, $5 billion in the Heritage and Civilization Fund, in addition to $5 billion in excess liquidity, in other words, monies in the various banks. They wouldn't tell us that. In addition to that, what they wouldn't tell us is that where are we now today, 10 years later, with respect to those funds that were supposed to manage the affairs of the country? Well, I want to tell you, you will never get it from Imsbert, you will never get it from Young, you'll never get it from Rowley, because they want to fool us and therefore see us as fools to accept that. But let me tell you that as far as the reserves are concerned, they met about 10 to 12 billion US. Well, it is now about 4 billion. You can't tell me that you don't understand what that means. You can't tell me that you don't understand when you take, of course, when you take and you calculate by utilizing simple arithmetic minus. You can't tell me you wouldn't know what the difference is, what they would have spent, first and foremost. Because if you take a 4 from 10, for example, let's use that, you will remain with 6. So it means that they spend 6 billion. And if you cry it up to 12, it means that they would have the difference would have been even more. But I'm being conservative. The fact of the matter is that your common sense must be able to apply, because you see, it's important as a pedagogue, not a pedophile, as a pedagogue. A pedagogue is a teacher. A pedophile, of course, is Rowley, is an example. Is example in Rowley having, of course, raped a girl of school age, but yet still the PNM foist him on us for the last 10 years as a leader of that party. And you have to be able to apply the fact that the old people have a saying that birds of feather flock together. Show me your friend and I'll tell you who you are. So we know. So it is not by accident, of course, Kamala Prasad Bisesson is saying that they are pedophile ring. Not by accident. Because we have been saying that, I have been saying that for the past 10 years about Rowley. And of course, one could consider it to be defamatory if it was not true. Let me repeat. It will be defamation if it was not true. But because it is true, it cannot be defamation. Let us not waste time with that. As a pedagogue, therefore, as a teacher, we have always been able to impart to our students, those who are supposed to receive, whilst we teach and guide, that, of course, education is about taking people from the known to the unknown. Let me repeat. It is a classic and ultimate intent of education to move people from the known to the unknown. And what do I mean by that? And I usually use, particularly at the primary level, a very simple examples. At one time, and I use it from the first standard, not first standard, but certainly from the first year, when of course you come into the primary school for the first time. But there was one time when you knew only your home environment and maybe the immediate neighborhood, this neighbor, the street, the house that you live in, your neighbor's house, etc. But then you are now going to a primary school that you knew nothing about. But of course, mommy brought you there, or daddy, or your guardian to the school, and therefore you learn something new. So from the known to the unknown, because you didn't know where the school was, and suddenly over time, it becomes parcel of what you know. Not the unknown again, but what you know. And then you can move on to other things that either in the classroom, outside the classroom, because education is a very comprehensive thing. It deals with, of course, every aspect of human being to become aware of your physical, social, economic, and one would say scientific environment. And science here, I mean, of course, the air that you breathe. Is sometimes, of course, you have rainy season. When you have the rainy season, you have the dry season. And you will observe, of course, the changes in the wind pattern, etc. All of those are scientific. And, of course, you would learn that the Earth revolves around its axis. An imaginary line, but, of course, that is what you know because it is science. Revolves around its own axis. And at the same time, it orbits the sun. It goes around the sun. And therefore, around its axis, it spins for 24 hours. And that is how you get a day. 24 hours. Spins around its own axis. And then, of course, it spins around the sun. And that journey takes 365 and a quarter days. 365 and a quarter days, yes, around the sun. And that's how you get a year. I'm just saying that not for the adults and the esoteric, the well-learned and the eruditic callers and so on, but it's for more the students and those who may not be aware of the scientific reasoning for why we have a day and why we have, of course, a year. And very significant because it's always a technique to determine those who were totally conscious or learn to their work as far as the functioning of the day and the year. And of course, we could we could sort of break it down into days and weeks and so on. But I want to stick on the question of the day and of course the year. You see, because it's important. I notice I said 365 and a quarter days. Well, it is because of that quarter you have what is called a leap year. So I always tell people, I say, there are some people who may not have a birthday in 4 years, because every 4 years the quarters are added up, because there are 4 quarters in a whole. So the quarters are added up and you get what is called a leap year. But always February. So a person born on the 29th of February will see an actual birthday on the 29th every 4 years. So in such circumstance, of course, that person has not seen a birthday in about 4 years. But I'm using that as a simple example, and of course to tell the students that, you know, sometimes you may have a question to answer, usually mathematically oriented, and you will say, of course, a person does work in, let's say, January, and of course in a leap year in February, how much days would he or she would have worked? A simple one. So you have to know what a leap year is as opposed to an ordinary year with 365 and a quarter days. That's the point I am making. And that's why, of course, you need to understand the science as well. But enough of that. Let's get, of course, to the practical issues that are at hand. Of course, the last caller spoke about answering moral and ethical questions. Why it is that, of course, these people will see us as fools. And I made the previous or foregoing examples just to make certain that you understand that knowledge is crucial. It is liberating. It is understanding your value and your worth. It is understanding your world. It is understanding through your various senses what you have to do. In the social realm, of course, you have what is called institutions of social control. In the first instance is your parents or your family, immediate family. All individuals are born into a family. Whether it's 2 persons, of course, a group of persons, as the case may be, more than 2, but that's all right. The fact of the matter is that is the first institution of social control. That's the place where you learn what is right and wrong. Yeah. How you conduct yourselves. Sometimes, depending on where you are born, like if you're born in a poor quarter, you're born in a place like Laventille, you get so much obscenities around you that you believe that is the way to conduct yourself. And you may well, of course, find yourself using obscenities in what we call formal situations because, of course, that is what you have been exposed to. Well, no. And here comes, of course, the school. When you go to school, the school will teach you, no, you leave that at home or in your immediate vicinity, or indeed as a choice for those who choose to use obscenity. But let them go in a serious meeting, let's say looking for a job, and then say, well, listen, my so-and-so name is so-and-so and so. I can tell you, and they will show you the way to the door immediately. So you have to understand the functionalities of these various aspects of your own experiences and your own exposures as you maneuver and as you evolve and as you meander through, of course, life's complexities. I thought it was important, of course, to say that because I want to eventually get to the politics and Trinidad and Tobago. And it is clear that the PNM has found a formula to try to keep people stupid in order to stay in office. So as I said, they will not tell you that they met $12 billion in reserves. They will never do that. You have to know that. And you have to question why they will not tell you that. Because you see, to say that you are doing well economically and your job is to expand, not to contract what you met there, you have to add on to what you met there. But because they have not done so, in fact, they have taken away what they met there, they then, of course, regale us with all kinds of niceties to deflect attention away from that basic. And once you understand the basic, you would know that they are no damn good to be in office then and even to today. And you will be questioning ultimately as to why they wouldn't get the hell out of office by calling an election. This is the 5th year of the ultimate amount or period for which to be in office. It's called, of course, it's called the cycle. Some call it the electoral cycle because it happens every 5 years. Others may give it different names. Like Rowley and they will say, of course, their second term as opposed to their first term. But they really mean 5 years. So the 5 years will be up officially. They can't go beyond, let's say, the 27th of August of this year. But they will try to give the impression that it's no big thing. They are in government and therefore they cutting ribbons, etc. Now, mind you, they are cutting ribbon in a final year, because I want to make the point that they were up in arms. They were scathing in their commentary and their abhorrence about the UNC. In their term not finished, that is their option. Remember when they talk about, of course, on the eve of the 2015 election, they, of course, assigned contracts for certain companies at Chagaramas. And I think the one that got the most beating from the PNM as part of, clearly, of its propaganda machinery against the UNC is on the eve of the election, somebody pull out a clause in the OAS contract with respect to the construction of the highway to Point Fortin. We know now that they beat on that because they illegally dismissed the company that they met with a contract with the US, with the previous UNC Kamala Prasad Bisesa-led administration between 2010 and 2015. And they decided, of course, to get rid of them. And so they frustrated the contract. Well, of course, they were saying that and continue to say so because where it matters, the arbitration in London, when the company took the government to court, the court said that Trinidad and Tobago government was wrong. They fired the people and them illegally. And so they had to give back $1 billion that they went and get as the security deposit. Imagine Rowley went and take the security deposit and claiming that the people were bankrupt and so on and so on. Well, the arbitration didn't say that. And they say that they have to give back every cent, over $1 billion. So they're setting up themselves to make it more palatable to you. But if you are educated, you would know that it's hogwash they're talking, and that therefore they should be making an expeditious exit. But let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Hey, Lennox, good night.
Good night to you, my friend.
You hear me good?
Loud and clear, man. Everybody else.
It,
yeah.
The first thing, the fella that's setting up for the
UNC in La Hokita?
yeah. When you watch, Philip Watch or something, so I don't agree with that candidate, Lennox. Let me tell you why.
Go ahead.
He's a former PNM, that's number one.
Yeah.
And all them to be three, you know, them time they run, they max the PNM.
Yeah.
And the next thing is this, well, I'm going through horse racing here a little bit.
Uh-huh.
To make my point, right?
Yes.
On Boxing Day in the Savannah, as you would know, the Blue Ribbon event was always the Gold Cup.
Yes.
And everybody used to want to get Charlie Jones.
Yes. The best jockey, arguably. Yes.
But in that bunch, they couldn't get Charlie Jones. We had other real good jockeys, you know.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Hajal, Edmond the Freitas, all these fellas.
The Freitas, yeah, remember the Freitas, yes.
Yeah, Rasul and all these guys. So even though if you didn't get Charlie, you had other fellas available to you.
Yeah.
So in the case of the UNC, and they put in this fella, you have other candidates. You gotta go and bring your freight along your candidates. And they go bash PNM, and whoever she put up, they go bash him the same year. You have to expect that. And incidentally, Lennox,
Yes.
in 1963 is the only time Charlie Jones ever won the Gold Cup, you know.
Okay. I know when I was a little boy at my father carriers in the Savannah, we used to sell soft drink and thing. I always remember Young Turnabout and Bulldozer.
Right. But you had a horse called Set Going.
Okay.
SETGYNG.
All right.
Charlie Windaritz at 36 or 1, you know, Lennox.
Wow. So it was a sort of a long shot, a long shot co-horse.
A long shot.
Yeah, they didn't expect it to win, so that's why they will give you greater odds.
I get it tip off because I don't know Cold Durant well.
Right.
And when I see Cold TD, I see Cold TD say play my horse tomorrow. Right?
Right.
You go beat them, you tell nobody else.
Right.
I put my little $5 I collect an exchange.
Right.
So, come now have plenty other guys that you can put up the point you're trying to make you.
I hear you, but I want to tell you, of course, because when you hang up, I will do I will elaborate. But I did some research on the matter. I know you brought it to my attention prior, so I want to confess that, and I did my research. So I will share with you and of course the public after you express your own concern.
Right. We have other people, man, real good people.
Okay.
You see unknown people, Lennox?
Yeah.
We don't want unknowns at this time, and then you can't trust PNM people.
Oh yeah.
That's my main contention.
I hear you.
I don't check candidates, but that's so much of them, they, man.
Yeah, I hear you.
Right? So that's my point I want to make. And you what do you think want to tell about?
Yeah. I was watching it up to, but that's why I lost so much time. I lost 19 minutes in coming on because I was taking a look at it. Very interesting, but I will elaborate on it tomorrow. People he was talking about, of course, Kevin Ramnarine's assessment as to the falsity of Stuart Young's argument. And you know, I was thinking I was wrong. It couldn't be $16 billion. You know, it's really $16 billion. Stuart Young was saying that Petroton lose in 2018. But I want to know. Yeah, I said, what? When I heard that, because I heard it, but I said, no, it couldn't be, because, I mean, the company ain't even making half of that. Under normal annual activity, you were making half of that, 16 billion. But I understand. I understand why he said 16 billion now, which I'm going to expatiate tomorrow night. All right. Yeah.
Plus, I want you to the CDA business, the Kelchol and them. You look at that?
If what? Yeah. I got that as well. Yes.
The judge ordered them to.
The judge order, but they give them a temporary injunction. The actual matter will be
until one day.
Later. Yes. But it's an injunction. Yeah. I had a look at that as well. I do what I say, and I say what I do. All right then. Bye. Yes. Yes, indeed. Call up. Please call back. I have a connection to another system which is not yet functioning, and I think you were calling on that, and I will not be. I don't have a microphone attached to it, so you wouldn't hear me. So I will take off that system, so everything comes either on this phone or on the system itself. But he started, of course, with the candidate that they choose for La Hokata Talparo. One would have expected that Jerlin John, was the expectation that Jerlin John would have been the one that would have been chosen again for that particular constituency. But I want to say my research has shown that Jerlin John, being the coordinator for that area, also contributed to recommending that gentleman for the seat to be contested under the UNC, and that he has been a UNC for a very long time now, since he left. At one time, he was, of course, the chairman of the constituency for the PNM, but he has left he has switched side a very long time now. So they are comfortable, and I am now comfortable now that I know what I know. And I trust that Mr. Tagorigo will, of course, take that on board as well. Let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Pleasant good night. Welcome.
I was commenting on the same point.
Okay.
Right? He would have left the PNM some years now.
Yeah, that's right. That was my research.
Right?
Yes.
One, Jerlin John, as strong as she is, couldn't win the seat. No, she's a good candidate, she's a good woman, but she couldn't win the seat.
Yes.
Fact says we can't win the seat with UNC votes alone. And I need a candidate who could attract the PNM votes, to get some of the PNM votes in the seat.
Yes, right, yes.
In order to win the seat.
Yeah, I glean all of that.
So I have seen.
Thank you very much for that endorsement.
From what I have seen today, because he was walking in Talparo, and the former MP for Rakata Talparo, before Cummins, was Maxi Coffee. And Maxi Coffee brothers, well, Maxi Coffee now, well, so he know any politics again. But his brothers was wearing UNC jerseys and was walking with the candidate.
I see.
And the UNC people who was walking in the area, they joined them and walking with them. And as somebody who within the ranks at UNC told me on Friday, they say in order for we to win the seat, yes, we will get the UNC votes, but we have to pull some of the PNM votes too.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I glean all of that. Yeah.
When they look at the candidate, they realize because he was the chairman, the former chairman of the constituency.
Yes.
He well entrained with how the constituency will run and what area that they target to pull the PNM votes on them.
Yes.
And he will have a following. It will have people who will leave when they see he's a candidate.
Beautiful. Where you calling from, by the way? Where you calling from?
I call him from Valencia.
Valencia, go ahead, yes.
Yeah, it have people who will leave and come and join them.
Right.
And with those people now, they will bring people with them.
Good.
So I think it's a good decision, and I think they do the research. But at the same time, they was looking at Ryan Rampersad, but I don't believe Ryan Rampersad. I don't think he wanted the seat either, and I didn't believe he could attract the votes that they want to attract.
Good.
But he also endorsed the candidate, and Jerlin John also endorsed the candidate, and them sign off on it too.
Great. Yes, I gleaned from all of that when I did my own research. So I too am concurring based on my research only today of what you said, because I did take on board what Mr. Tagrigo's concern was, but of course it was not. It wasn't deep enough in terms of the background information, and to say merely because he was a PNM that he ought not to be considered. I think that is a bit myopic, frankly.
Correct.
Yes.
And I also disagree with him. No, whether we want UNC to win, but I disagree with him in the sense that the revealing candidate, he had to remember it's a coalition, and he had to sit down and talk with everybody.
Yes.
Because seats had to share up. she had to consult with you and Philip to find out who is the best candidates and who seats what they want.
That's
So
right.
she can't rush to send out a list and then after somebody say, well, I didn't want this person in that seat. This is the person I wanted.
Very good.
She had to sit down and have discussions, and then after when all you agree or the other partners agree that, all right, this is the person we want because this is the seat they're giving us or seats they're giving us. We see these persons as the best persons to represent our party in these seats.
Very good.
So you can rush the thing. You have to consult with people before. And I think that is what she's doing with you all, if I'm not mistaken.
No. I was going to make the point, but I'm glad that your analytical ability so far has been sustained, but in a positive way. Because yes, that would be logistically correct and would be practically, let's say, of necessity, because you need to generate the synergy, and it is people you're talking about. You have to engage in discussion. It will take time, but of course not sufficient to of course cause a snap election to come and catch you with your pants down, kind of thing. I don't think that is possible at all. Everybody, in fact, I could say that everybody know who their candidates are, and the UNC also knows who the candidates are. So if there is a sudden, let's say next week Sunday, they call it the election date, I'm sure that the coalition of interests will be ready. I can assure you of that.
I believe you all already.
Yeah.
But they're just not revealing all your cards.
That's right, exactly. But there are those who are anxious, and of course, and they will make their comments because they are anxious in two contexts. One, that in case, of course, is a snap election call, and two, that somehow they measure it by the fact that the PNM is, of course, calling the entire slate. I don't think either of those arguments will prevent, of course, the UNC from contesting the 39 seats in and whatever configuration in Trinidad. Yes.
Correct is right.
Right. All right. Thank you very much for your input, my friend.
No problem.
Any other thing you want to add?
Nah, that's it for now.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's a very sagacious and very interesting discussion in terms of the reality that, of course, has to be the issues relating to the preparation for the 2025 elections by the UNC. You see, too often, the PNM, I say, and its leadership has the capacity to try to set the agenda for others. Is usually, of course, to their advantage, obviously. Because, take for instance, when they went to Tobago in a retreat, there was no talk, even though that it was in the grapevine, so to speak, but there was no talk about a conclusive departure of Rowley, even though, of course, we knew before that would have been part and parcel of the discussion because we were told that was public knowledge. But then the outcome, he didn't expect that outcome, and therefore that became the issue because you had a 11-9 scenario, not slightly in favor, but not sufficient, of course, to go to the president to say that everybody is on board in support of Stuart Young, this Chinese man. That I say Chinese man with a high degree of specificity because I want the East-West corridor to understand that we were being told and projected that, of course, the PNM is a black man party, and black man here has a very specific connotation over the years. It has not changed. But we will try to change it. The leadership will try to change it. Those who want to hang on to power and, of course, ignore the fact that they have betrayed the trust of the African community, particularly along the East-West corridor, and, of course, in Deep South, whether it be Point Fortin or Labrie. We're going to deal with that separately. But the point I am making here is that here it is. They went back, of course, to that, what I consider to be blood money edifice, monstrosity called Balize House. I say blood money, monstrosity, again with a high degree of specificity, because you see, Rowley told us that the PNM was broken in 2015. In fact, it was owing $5 million at counting. How you could produce now, after, 9 years, are over $100 million building and call it your headquarters? So you understand why I say it is blood money, because he cannot convince anybody, and based on the evidence, that money was not as a result of kickbacks and corrupt conduct. Corrupt conduct on the part of the government. And we have proven that over and over. So that goes without saying. That's par for the course now. Everybody knows that. It's impossible for him to get $100 million to build that. And it is not yet furnished, furniture, etc. The elevator not yet in that 5-story monstrosity. Blood money. But let's put that aside. But the fact is that after the retreat and after that 11-9 scenario, and they went, of course, into that blood money edifice called Balize House, and then they came out with that 21 none, if you want to call it that, or 21 all, maybe the more appropriate term. But the fact of the matter is that soon after that, they called a convention, a special convention. They are in government. They have the resources of the state, so it is easy for them, of course, to make these arrangements in quick time, and of course manifest a convention, just as what they're going to be having on Sunday. I'll get back to some more of that after, of course, the call. We always give way to the callers. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Pleasant good night to you, Mr. Lennox.
Pleasant good night to you as well, my friend.
Calling from Sanangani as usual.
Yes, man.
Yeah, what I want to ask today, they say Mr. Rowley might be going in approximately 8 days' time or so, right?
Yes, he say on the 16th he's given up, and swearing in of the Chinese man on the 17th.
Yeah, but what I want to know, he wouldn't be saying resigning as the Prime Minister and stepping out, because anytime he step out, they will have one shot.
No, it's obvious that he is still in the Parliament. Unprecedented.
Right.
These are new uncharted waters. Because remember, you still have the situation where he still claims to be leader of the PNM. But go ahead.
Definitely. So what's going on there now? He will kind of stay in the background to force Tiotiong in on the people.
Yeah, force him on the people. Yeah. And to make sure that he's the bulwark. Make sure that he could bulldoze what he has anointed. Let me put it that way.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
That's why there could be no doubt he could be looking to get a presidential post too, because you remember how Robinson falling.
Yes.
So he wanted a legacy that when Christine Kanalu comes out, Stuart might be able to nominate he, and he could become president at Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, that's only if they win if they win the election, but they don't have a chance in hell or indeed in heaven to win an election. So we know that's an exercise in futility. There may be some other things that he may have in mind for that, and I think it's to consolidate, hopefully to consolidate over the period that he's still in control of the party, to of course have them accept Stuart Young. So when the convention comes, it should be smooth sailing. But I think there are other elements that have a different view as well from within the party that will not see or will not like that to be a manifestation.
Well, he know that, He know that. That's why he fighting it down. And I know
that's why he has stayed on. Yeah, he has just stayed on. Yeah, if it was a clean, yeah.
What I realized with the women and them in the Ceylon area today, they start to show a little fighter.
Yeah.
And that is good. Yeah, Mr. Smith,
All right,
one thing I'm going to tell you before I
yeah, go ahead, because they have a call coming in. Go ahead.
You hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I used to live in the Bitom area a long time days, because it had a father named Mr. Aaron who was working TSTT. And he was a man controlling in the Bitom because he had hog hunting over the highway.
All right. Yeah.
And nobody didn't used to interfere with that. But it's a long while I go back by him, they know, so I even know if he are wrong self.
All right.
I know, well, he was a good man around that. I will talk with you on
Yeah, we'll
another
talk.
time.
Yes. Because we have a caller coming in that insists that they get in. Pleasant good night. Welcome. I think this is Mr. St. James.
Good night, Mr. Smith. Yes, this is St. James.
Yes, good night. Good night to you.
Well, interestingly enough, I called when I heard the caller make reference to him wanting the presidency. I recall having a discussion similar to that with you on a previous occasion, where his aspirations could well and be to avoid prosecution. You see, he believes that if he holds the position of the president, he can avoid personal prosecution.
Yeah, I hear you.
And use the office to pardon the rest of his cohorts.
Yes. No, that is logical, but
it's not far-fetched.
Yeah. No, it's not far-fetched at all. Even the previous caller's position, my only input is that he don't start, the PNM don't stand a ghost of a chance to, of course, win the election. That could only be dependent on victory. Yeah.
They don't know that because they would have corrupted the EBC to such an extent that they're fairly comfortable.
Yeah. What happened in Tobago?
Yeah, but by and large, today, the idiot-elect for Prime Minister,
yes.
idiot-elect, complained bitterly about the effects from the social media. And when he becomes the Prime Minister, he intends to deal with social media and people hiding behind social media and tarnishing other people and saying all kind of stuff.
Right.
But I want to remind him that if it wasn't for social media, we would never have known about that big drug bust that took place in Westmoreland, where a young lady purported to be somebody's stepdaughter was involved in millions of dollars in drugs and guns. We would not have known that the sitting commissioner of police was her first cousin. Social media. So we would not have known that. What I can say though is that we need to put a stop to politicians going into parliament with fake emails and causing a coup to remove a sitting prime minister.
That I agree.
And we need also to investigate why, after a man come into the parliament with what amounts to be toilet paper, nothing more than that, and the police acts immediately to go and seize the Attorney General's electronic equipment, the Prime Minister's electronic equipment, and all the other ministers at the time mentioned electronic equipment. But in the same parliament, it is revealed that $3 or $4 billion 1 year went missing. And to date, and I could be wrong, you could correct me if I am, I haven't heard or seen the police seizing anybody's equipment and going into anybody's bank account or going into anybody's personal files to try to get back the money for us. Or are we to wait on the Commissioner of Police to appoint somebody to that? How is that supposed to really work?
No, I agree with you. And the same person who is at the center of this, what I consider to be unsavory development, is making statement that he is not guilty, that he that no money is missing, and all of that, and there is no independent, objective an analysis by way of course, the government taking a decision so to do, as opposed to other situations, and that is what is very, very not just undemocratic, not just self-serving, but of course flies in the face of natural justice.
But Mr. Smith, with all due respect, the police has a responsibility to investigate all reports of larceny. And if it's a country which was stolen from, they have a responsibility to look into that as well. Whether or not they're asked by anybody to do it, they're supposed to go. They're supposed to interview the Auditor General. They're supposed to get the facts from her. And they're supposed to proceed to try and get back that finance for us. Now, I recall when, after giving 14% increase in salaries to public officers, including the police officers, the then Prime Minister turned around and gave them $1,000 on top of that. And then went on to say that if an officer is killed in the line of duty, his family will receive $1 million. All well and good. And these are the same people who stormed in and took away everybody's electronic devices because a man walked in the parliament with fake emails, like I said. He looked like toilet paper he took out of the washroom, brought them in, made certain spurious accusations and claims, and they acted immediately.
No, but I'll tell you this. There's a difference. There's a difference here. The sitting Prime Minister initiated that. She called for an investigation. What we are seeing in this case, there is no calling for an investigation, except, of course, he that is, of course, at the center of this, what I consider to be debilitating and concerning financial heist, if you want to call it that, is making this statement, but not stopping short of saying let's call in the police, because it appears that is the scenario. If the police gets the signal from the political directorate, then they take action. We have seen that, of course, with Farley and Tobago, for example.
Exactly.
You're looking for a recording, an audio of some kind of conspiracy to what? Not that it has happened, a conspiracy. A conspiracy.
No, but if you
and you go to Tobago and looking and breaking down people's door, and of course having warrants and so on, so much so that of course it met the chagrin of the House of Assembly there, and of course statements made by the Chief Secretary of the collusion of the Prime Minister, the Tobago representative of the PNM, and I think the then sitting, of course, acting or substantive commissioner of police. Yeah.
Well, the point I want to make, Mr. Smith, with all due respect.
Go ahead.
The Auditor General's report is irrefutable evidence of money being stolen from our treasury. End of story.
I agree with you, and therefore, there should be an investigation launch initiated by the commissioner. Yeah.
Yeah, the other parties involved went as far as the Privy Council, and the Privy Council commanded that he be investigated.
No.
So it doesn't require.
No, they asked the question. Let's not say that.
Yeah, well, in other words.
Yeah. Because you see, the PNM itself would want to use that as propaganda and say nobody commanded anybody, that kind of talk. They use semantics, you know that. So we have to be very meticulous here.
I know, but I'm saying, we playing smart with foolishness.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The people said what they had to say.
Quite so, yes.
And in this regard, if you really look at it carefully, the senior police officers this country, the very senior ones,
yes,
they're the ones who have to go. They're the ones causing the problem in the country, really, with the crime, Because if you look at their action in certain instances and their inaction in other instances, you would realize that all they are doing is obstructing the officers below the ranks, under the underranks officer, from performing the duties that they're supposed to. because of the interference from the political directorate at this point.
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, clearly that has always been so as far as the PNM is concerned. There's no objective. They don't investigate their own, particularly those who they see as in the upper echelons of the decision-making processes of that party. And secondly, of course, consequently or concomitantly, the government.
And this is what we're saying.
Yeah.
So what they have done, despite the benevolence of a UNC government towards the police in terms of the remunerations and the terms and conditions of employment, it seems as though, and that benefited every single police officer, as far as I'm aware, and it seems as though that goes beyond ingratitude. That goes to the fiber of something far more nasty than we're looking at. Because if you get in on your salary increases that you was never expecting, and you didn't even probably work towards because your union wasn't involved in that.
Yeah.
It means, therefore, that your real income is somewhere else. That is your paper income. That is just what you get as every month for being in that position. But that is not your real income because you show no gratitude towards receiving that. In fact, you lean towards the side of the evil of people who have friends who are international narco-terrorists and all kind of things. Those are the people who you more loyal to than, I mean, a 5-year-old should figure that out.
Yeah, well, that tantamounts, of course, to abuse of office, misbehavior in public office. It's a criminal offense. But, of course, as you rightly said, there is this quandary, there is this enigma as to who should initiate investigations of persons like that. And we see that the PNM will not. And it is usually from tradition that the political directorate will so direct, as in the case of Kamala Prasad Bissessa, when she was at the receiving end, if you want to call it that, or the sticky end of the accusations about those pieces of paper that Rowley said was emails conspiring to kill a journalist, among other things. She initiated it. The duty of Rowley, and they don't have the moral and ethical, what would I say, high ground to, of course, initiate an investigation about themselves or involving themselves, and that is bad.
We would both be wasting our time if we expected decencies to come from them.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's a
wasting our time.
Yeah.
And beyond that, even one of the main accused in the email gate fiasco eventually ascended to the position of Commissioner of Police. What kind of crazy?
Yeah, it reminds me of Shakespeare's play Macbeth. To foul, what fear is foul and foul is fair. They can't tell the difference between right and wrong.
So it shows that there's a history, there's a link between those individuals that preceded Emailgate, that preceded the People's Partnership, and that link was so strong and so much of a bond that it couldn't even be dissolved to the end that it becomes so obvious now. Anyway, I want to congratulate.
Yeah, but you see... I want to
congratulate...
Go ahead, yes.
I want to congratulate Marshall Walker for finally jumping and we getting rid of her. Good riddance, Marsha.
And the thing about it is, the final arbiter, the final decision maker, the final adjudicators are really the electorate. And that is why, of course, we have a duty not only to extrapolate or analyze these differences. They are not even nuances as far as I'm concerned, but, deep differences in terms of moral and ethical. Because only today, for example, I was talking about the whole question of recusals. and Rowley will have no qualms in, of course, any and all, and on several occasions, his ministers recusing themselves from what would ordinarily be, of course, a conflict of interest scenarios. And it appears that there is no moral standard, no ethical standard. That is all right. That is par for the course. But what I have as what I consider to be saving grace is the fact that when they are out of office and somebody else does it, they suddenly have this self-righteous indignation and would, of course, pronounce on such a situation once it's not them. So we know that they must be, of course, investigated. The blue lights and silver braces must visit them, and because they have been simply criminals in high places.
No, before I leave you.
Yeah, because
I just want to bring one point across.
Go ahead.
I just want to mention one more thing. You recall the elections when they had a particular religious group intimidating persons going to the polls, advising them that they should stay home rather than to go and vote for the UNC.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You recall that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, they no longer have the support of that particular religious group. In fact, the deceased leader of that religious group came out and said, hey, there's a gang, there's a mafia, there's a gang, and his lawyer had to ask him, hey, I leaving, I'm not staying here if you're going to say things like that.
Yeah.
But he came out openly and he said, yes, they're a gang. Now that they don't have that religious group to perform that task for them, I am concerned that they have the police doing that for them. All these roadblocks, they're intimidating people. You are a SOE, but you studying about who have a blown bulb on their car, who car have a dent. What stupidness is that?
I hear you, my friend. And the irony, or the opposite, or the paradigm shift, or the opposite is the what? The all day of policing. And more significantly, a candidate emerged in 2020 who was at the helm of that particular exercise. And clearly now we know the intention was to do what? To undermine and to overthrow the sitting government at the time of Kamala Prasad Bisesa. That is where we have to go. And so therefore to show that it is good for one, but you the same thing. You are believe that you are senator only when you are in government. But that when they get out of government, we'll see the big difference, because the UNC clearly are smarter than them. They have more accomplished legal minds, because we have seen that when the PNM was unable, of course, to make any legal history or superior in matters of that nature. But we have to go.
We must also mention the pushback movement where the same police officers use tear gas.
Yes, on our tails. All right, okay. I have to go. All right. Yes, indeed. Of course. Go ahead, Mr. Faizabad. Sorry about that. And we have another call behind you as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll call back because on the topic.
Yes.
Because the scenario is that with the Attorney General, it's after they paid $22 million pure, right? A file went missing. First, it went missing in the office.
Yeah.
They paid $22 million. Then they find the file. And then the Attorney General asked for a one-man inquiry where the file disappeared to.
Yeah.
And then went in Parliament and hear the report, how he laid the report. There is nothing to be concerned and nothing to lay on the report. That sounds like in there and the Auditor General in comparison.
That sounds like the shambolic state of administration of the PNM generally, because I mean we have had too many incompetent, if you want to call that, and incompetence here seem to be a conscious position as far as the PNM is concerned. No way any government can have so much accidental debacles or faux pas as the Rowley administration. I suppose that is probably one of the things, apart from probably some issue in the United States, that would have caused him, of course, to make a sudden departure.
And the nice one now, since now the topic of the police investigating, Stuart Young read a report in Parliament and say patriot and showing falsified documents. Where the investigation, they want to add up a next bill, $1 billion to investigate again. So that is food for thought.
They're not going to do it. It's clear they would have done it already, but it was designed to poison the population mind about their justification for not having patriotic as a contender for the purchase of the oil refinery, even though Rowley has said when he made a statement to close down that particular entity that if OWT wanted, they could get it at favorable conditions. It seems not so now, so it was never intended to be favorable. But let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
Lennox.
Hey.
Listen to me here now, eh? The reason the police don't charge the PNM, what if the PNM campaign does be against UNC? They're thief. That's why they don't charge them. So if they charge them and accuse them of thieving, they have nothing to campaign with. That's why they don't charge them. I mean, a little child in school.
But I mean, are you saying built into what you are saying is that these police officers are sympathetic and attach their, whether they act objectively or do what is expected of them, what they are being paid for, because they are sympathetic to the PNM? Or put another way, the PNM have put, of course, their agents in these institutions. That's the point I want to make.
So they did charge them.
Okay.
Any one of them.
Yeah.
Whatever campaign with. They can't come and say UNC keep again.
Yeah, I hear you, but I'm just saying that could only happen because the job of the police is to charge. And since they're not charging PNM people, but they're charging UNC people, is it that these people are sympathetic or they are agents of the PNM? That's the point I'm making.
That's the only conclusion I can come to.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. I thought that would have been the logical conclusion, yes.
That's right.
Yes. So we are living in a dangerous state. We are living in a fascist state. We are living in a democratic dictatorship where, of course, the PNM select persons who are sympathetic to them to put in major, supposedly independent institutions to protect them of their iniquities at the highest level in managing our affairs.
Yes, they can't come and campaign with nothing after that.
Yeah. No, I hear you, but I just want to make sure that it is built in. It is not something periphery or by some epiphany. It is orchestrated.
That's right.
Yeah, okay. All right.
But you know that as well as I.
Yeah, but we have to bring it out for the ordinary listener who may not be that familiar. Yes. All right, my friend. Anything else?
All right,
yeah, okay then. Yes, indeed. The other callers, please call, but I know we're taking some time with I'm taking my time tonight and giving as much time as possible because we have to engage in discussion and see if we can ventilate as far as we can, given the limited time. But of course, as we move closer to the election, we'll have a lot of time. We will have to go maybe up to 11, 12 o'clock every night. But go ahead. A pleasant good night.
Good night to you, Mr. Smith, and all the beautiful people on the line.
Good night to you.
Happy International Women's Day to all the women on our chat and on the universe, and especially Ms. Kamala Prasad-Vitaka. I would like to say Happy Women's Day to you.
I'm sure that all listening will be very, very happy, particularly the women, but the men folk like me, would be happier as well. But go ahead.
Yes, I want to say happy day to you as well. I just love your work, your dedication. I think you deserve plenty more credit than you get. I saying like your voice going and all of that. I
Yes, yes,
see
yes.
how hard you work, you know. During the carnival season when you go up on the phone, I see a lot of things that they're putting up right through. So I know you ain't going away. I just jamming them right too because they want a better Trinidad and Tobago, a better Laventille. And people of Laventille have to understand who's for them and who's not for them. You understand? And, you know, not because somebody come and they offer you a lot of money and a little this and a little that, you go for it. Take it if you want to take it. But know who you have to vote for because at the end of the day, it will always have this borderline situation that we have right through. It will always have gang wars. It will always have a lot of young ladies there selling themselves. You know, when you look at some of, well, I am in Lavender at the time, and when you see some of these young girls, pretty girls, you know, you won't believe how pretty the girls are. Some are very, very intelligent. But because of their living conditions, they behave a certain way, you know, and we have nobody to really, you know, talk to them and let them know, hey, it's a better life. You don't have to dress scandalous. You don't have to behave scandalous. You don't have to, you know, do certain things to get recognition. You know, and we need people, you know, the elder heads to come and talk to them, talk to the young men and them. I know you do a lot of that. I see that, you know, a lot of them look up to you. But we need them to come out and vote. We need them to do the right thing. Right? Because I'm not talking about the UNC, but about the other part, because the politicians, they will come. They will give you a little this and a little that. And the next, after all is said and done, the election come, all the suffering, or they can't get water, or they can't get food, or they can't get work. You know, and you see a lot of them pregnant, a lot of them have such a children. Some of them never, you know, they have things to eat. It's only 11 to alone, eh? It have a lot of places that you may say 1% or not only 1%, but middle class. But it have a lot of people suffering in Trinidad and Tobago at the time. Right? And we need people to, you know, look out for the younger ones. Some of them might be kind of, I say, they will come out harsh, but some of them really need love. People will say Lavender people are, I hear some people talk about Lavender people and even how to do it. But you know, if you as a person want a change, you should be the one come and talk to them, find out the situation, find out how they get where they are. Because some of them you can approach them, you know, and talk to them because some of them approach young men and all and hey, hi man, so you're going thing to talk to you and all that. You just have to know how to talk to them. And he need the older heads come and talk to the young ones. Show them an example, you know? Show them there's more to life than how they live in. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I think we need these people and you see these people from the UNC who leave and I think go to Rhythm Sport. I would like to use some words but I can't do it. Go to Rhythm, we go all the way. We don't need all it. Right? That is to show how easily these people can be bought. I see Mr. Markle, who I once looked up to. You say, so what are you trying to tell me? You want to contribute to the crime? You want to contribute to all this madness that's going on? Look, we have an SOE going on right now, and it's the most amount of killing you ever seen in an SOE. What is going on in Trinidad and Tobago at this time? What example is showing the youth? What is it you really want? And these things bother me because I have children and I'm a grandmother as well. These things bother me, so I could walk the road, somebody could shoot at me and my children or something like that. I mean, all they showing up, all they could be bought for less than nothing, or they don't want to contribute to the right things. Right? Because I think for them, what is done, bless you and see. We will prosper, love until we be better someday. Right? And as some appreciate all your hard work. Really appreciate your hard work. And God is good. Bless you as usual. Things will happen. You have a wonderful night, and all listeners have a wonderful night. And if you could contribute to helping our program and all these things, do it. Right? Have a wonderful night.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's not often I have the opportunity to tell a woman on this program, go to the top of the class, but clearly, I mean, that was a comprehensive assessment as to what is happening in these parts. Of course, I will elaborate a little more as to what happened only last night. And then, of course, we have a contemporary situation that I think we need to ventilate and to bring it to the attention of not just the population affected, but certainly the national community. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
Good night, Mr. Lennox, and good night to everybody who's on the line. Good night, Sharon and Bigo. Mr. Lennox, listen, I have a question for you now.
Yeah.
And my question is simply this. According to the Constitution, Stuart Young could become Prime Minister based on this nonsense going on in the PNM and how they want to foist this Chindian upon us?
Well, it appears that I'm sure that taking his logical conclusion or direction, it may be up eventually for interpretation, because if the president interpret it the way how the PNM has, it means therefore he will become prime minister. But nothing prevents the concerned people like myself from taking the matter to court for an interpretation, because what is clear is that if that is allowed, it means therefore that in Lavatil we have a term called plain paid. Two persons gang up and they create a situation where they take somebody else's marbles. What I'm saying is that what prevents another person from saying, listen, other than Stuart Young, listen, I have the majority of those in the parliament, so therefore I want to be prime minister. And then after that person do it, and next one jump up and ball, yes. So each one of them getting the same salary because they might have been a prime minister for 2 days or 2 weeks. I mean, you understand where I'm coming from. So in spite of, I expected that the president will not be so in depth or concerned, and therefore will do what the 21 elected representative would have done on the PNM side, of course, having of course said what they would have said. But certainly it requires some kind of constitutional interpretation, because that is an untenable situation. You could go on changing prime minister every 2 weeks in such a simplistic way, right? Because remember, Rowley ain't dead, he ain't sick. He is still the leader of the party, and the constitution speaks about the leader of the party being, of course, the prime minister. And in this particular case, Stuart Young will never be the leader, right? At least at minimum until, of course, Rowley, or put another way, until the internal convention or elections of the PNM. So what are you saying? What are you instituting? You're instituting an untenable. It is a prescription for chaos and confusion up the road. So I think it should be given some kind of element of interpretation, at least. Something like what happened recently with respect to the Bolt arrangement. Remember that? The Bolt arrangement in Tobago, when of course Anand Ramlogan has said that the THA then under the PNM acted illegally by, of course, engaging in this Bolt arrangement and putting a expenditure on the national treasury for which they have no authority, right? You cannot go and borrow money just so, without, of course, the minister of finance being given the approval. What are you doing? Is there two ministers of finance? Well, even though the Bolt arrangement was completed and the state is still paying for it, they filed for an interpretation, and the interpretation came in I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, saying that no way that Bolt arrangement could have been, because it would have put unauthorized expenditure on the exchequer, meaning the finances of the country. So that is settled. So I suspect that whilst the Prime Minister may be ensconced, meaning that inside, in place, I think they may well go for an interpretation. So in the future, you would not have such a situation. And maybe it may trigger faster elections if, of course, the decision is made quickly, because I suspect what we suspect, that is not a tenable situation.
Okay, moving on. One more thing before I go.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know if you saw the common attraction with this so-called want to be Prime Minister. You just imagine this man gave you a PNM history from Eric Williams, and when he reached Rowley, he skipped Rowley. Because Rowley did nothing for nothing for the last 10 years. You should get that clip in. If you see that clip in, you would laugh, you know. You would swear. That's the man with the sweat.
But I always said that George Young is a consummate nincompoop. George Young is a consummate buffoon. George Young is a consummate asinine specimen of inhumanity, and according to Kamala Prasad Misesa, he is a junior lawyer who have been foisted upon the population and do not have the credentials to manage the affairs. And he's going to get a lot of licks. As soon as he takes up that post, a lot of licks he going to be getting.
You can see the God bless.
Yeah, you can now see the brutality in him, because he will now have to revert to what Rowley has been doing as an incompetent Prime Minister and a leader. He has to revert to what is called aggression being the best form of defense, in order, of course, to survive all that time. You're going to see, but George Young will have difficulty in even being rambunctious and obnoxious, because he simply doesn't look the part, he doesn't sound the part, and he cannot act the part. So he is in a state of affairs, and clearly there could never be a greater exhibition or exemplification of someone who has, of course, have a shoe that is too big for your foot. Let me put it that way. But of course, people, let me just, of course, give some of the stoic principles of a fool. I think it's important that we look at that in order for the Lavatil people and for the East-West Corridor to understand how Rowley and they look at the rest of us and believe that they could do these things and get away with it, and then act as though nothing has happened and they are doing well. They are doing no wrong. And of course, talk that talk and believe that the talk will, of course, manifest in an election result in their favor. That and God face they will not see. The population is too intelligent. And I think Lavatil on this occasion will be part of the 39 seats in Trinidad for the UNC and whatever configuration. Yes, I expect to be there as well in terms of making it happen. But let's go to the stoic principle of stupidity, so you get an idea as to what a stupid person is.
To reflect upon. Because the path to wisdom always begins with awareness. Ready to walk this road with me? Let's begin. The first sign, a closed mind. A closed mind is the fortress of ignorance, built brick by brick with fear, pride, and stubbornness. People like this not only reject new ideas, but also block their own paths to growth. They live in a rigid box where everything must operate according to their familiar rules, and anything different is perceived as a threat. Their confidence often serves as a facade, because true confidence comes from knowing you can't know everything. Take Mark, for example, a department manager at a company I once worked for. Mark was adamant that the old ways of working were best, despite clear signs that his team was falling behind competitors. When a younger employee suggested implementing modern project management software to improve efficiency, Mark dismissed the idea outright, saying, We've done it this way for 10 years and it's worked fine. As a result, while other teams in the company made significant strides, Mark's team struggled with outdated processes and declining performance. Instead of acknowledging the problem, Mark blamed his staff, the market, and even luck, but never questioned his own entrenched mindset. A closed mind doesn't just block new knowledge, it damages the growth of everyone around it.
You understand that, people? I mean, that is so poignant and so relevant to what is happening to our people under a PNM administration over, not now, over many decades. It's 67 years they've celebrated last time. Tonight, over 6 decades, 60 years and more. Because of the closed mind situation in places like Laventille. And I focus on Laventille simply because they have been subjected to that scenario for the longest, because they have never changed, but because of that closed mind situation. And what do we mean by closed mind in the context of what we are talking about here at Laventille? It is very easy for those persons who are on the ground, members of the party groups and so on of the PNM, who of course are members of the community, living and operating and interacting directly. And because they're getting a CPEP or a URP opportunity, or because they have been voting for the PNM for a very long time, that of course they are blinded of course to the reality that the UNC has been able, of course, to make an intervention, and therefore, between 2010 and 2015, whether you want to call it box drain, the fact of the matter is that businessmen would have emerged, and you would have at the same time be solving, of course, long-term, your environmental or flooding scenarios, once this would have been, of course, practiced throughout the country. In other words, putting the horse before the cart and not the cart before the horse. Because when you fix the drains, you can now, of course, do the roads, and so what you will have is a sustainable or a longer, or for longevity purposes, better and long-lasting infrastructure. Understand that. So don't close your mind. Open up your mind. There are those who are going to reinforce that closed mind scenario based on what is coming out from Balize House. But you also have to remember that those at Balize House, the leadership, they eating ham, lamb and jam. You can see them driving in their big time SUV and you ain't had none. Or you're driving like me, a ring road, and then say that they somehow are living like you, because you know the value of those vehicles as opposed to yours and what I have. Let's not waste time. Do not have a closed mind. Open up your mind. Open up your mind. But let's continue, of course, with the six principles. Signs of a stupid person, 6 signs of a stupid person.
Wise people, on the other hand, aren't afraid to admit that they don't know everything and are always willing to learn. Stoic philosophy reminds us that wisdom isn't about always being right, but about the ability to adapt and improve. If you notice this tendency in yourself or someone at work, remember that embracing innovation not only fosters personal growth, but also creates a more productive work environment. Be brave enough to say, I was wrong and I want to learn. Only when the walls of stubbornness crumble can true wisdom take root. The second sign, constant blaming. Foolish people are masters of excuses. For them, nothing is ever their fault.
You hear it on a daily basis on the ground report, where people amazingly, you're shocked. And I like to say, when I want them on Prince, them one cloud. Rowley and they are not talking about at all the 10 billion that they meet in US and where it is today, about 4 billion, they wasted down. But they're talking about, of course, how well they did over the last 10 years. They wouldn't tell you that the Heritage and Celebration Fund is still short of whatever they took out 3 times, 4 times, as the case may be. They wouldn't tell you that. What they will tell you is that when they meet it in 2015, it is back up in spite of what they took out. But they won't tell you in spite of what they took out. They'll just say it back up to where they met it. And you must accept that and not realize it, but wait now, but it ain't short of what they took out. It will always be short of what they took out until, of course, they decide to put it back. By of course, creating the conditions so for such activity to take place or such augmentation to manifest. But more than that, they are so dishonest that they won't tell you that they had nothing to do with the increase or the coming back to where it was back in 2015. The Heritage and Celebration Fund, they had nothing to do with it. You see, because the way how it was struck or how it is structured, an initial sum was provided, a committee was set up to invest the money, and it is the dividend, the returns on the money on stock markets across the globe, etc., that caused that. So in other words, they didn't build no added value to the pitch lake, for example, to start to produce maybe bitumen or other products coming out of there, so that you have a variety of products, and therefore you broaden your market, and therefore your returns will be greater. No, it's a very simple case. They take the money, they put it on some stock exchange in some metropolitan country, United States preferably, and then the returns from that builds the Heritage and Celebration Fund. Full stop. There is no physical asset, there is no expansion of job opportunities, etc. in there. No. But they get to know as though, in the absence of not disclosing that information, they get on as they did something to increase from where it were, from the minusing or from dipping into it, to tell us simply that it is back to where it was when it was in 2015, the Heritage and Celebration Fund. That is deception.
A failed project? The market was too tough. A missed promotion? The boss was biased. But deep down, we all know that blaming is a shield, a way for them to avoid confronting the truth. However, that same shield becomes a prison, holding them back from any real growth. Take Lisa, for example, an event organizer I once worked with. She was in charge of planning a major conference. When the event flopped due to poor attendance, Lisa immediately blamed the marketing team for not promoting it well enough. But upon investigation, it turned out that Lisa had failed to send the event details on time, delaying the entire marketing campaign. Even then, she continued pointing fingers, refusing to accept her own role in the failure. The result? Her colleagues lost trust in her, and Lisa eventually stepped down from her position. Responsibility, though often heavy, is the gateway to growth. Wise people admit their mistakes, not because they enjoy criticism, but because they understand that truth brings opportunities to improve. Stoic philosophy reminds us that mastering life starts with mastering responsibility. If you notice yourself falling into a pattern of blaming others, pause and ask yourself, have I done everything I could? Is there something I could have done differently? Blaming won't change the outcome.
It's clear. But blaming in the context of of what we are speaking is bifurcated too. On the one hand, the PNM blames the UNC. They in charge of the treasury and all of the apparatus of government, but they blame the UNC right through. And whether you're considered me vicariously or the other part of this fang or this bifurcation, is that the sycophants and the diehard and the apologists for the PNM, they too will tell you, give them a chance. 10 years going, 5 years gone, give them a chance. They, the PNM in government, have the whole of the treasury at their disposal. Give them a chance. What? You're mad? You're mad? The outcome is what we are having now: total shambolism, chaos, and collapse. That's all you are doing. So you cannot be that stupid. You cannot be that ignorant, meaning your lack of knowledge, because knowledge is also acquired by your own experience, and you cannot wish that away. That is your experience. You cannot wish it away. And the experience is that you're seeing before your very eyes that you have to pay more in the grocery, that you have to pay more for electricity, you have to pay now a new tax called property tax. What the hell happened? And they will tell you, they just have to tell you that all over the world that happening, and you accepting that? No. Because especially when they tell you in the beginning that they will never touch property tax. Are you taking that? No, they should pay the price. Get the hell out of office. They still want to be so incompetent, not productive, and stay in office. They should be saying, if they were sincere and they were not dishonest, they would say, listen, I have to go because I told you certain things and it didn't happen. So I am going. No, they want to have the cake and eat it. I say no. And you must say no as well, because you are now intelligent and learnt.
But taking responsibility will change you. Wise individuals don't shy away from their mistakes. They learn, grow, and move forward. And you can too. Choose the path of truth, improvement, and greatness. The third sign: arrogance over humility. Have you ever encountered someone who constantly tries to prove they're the smartest person in the room? That's the third sign of a foolish person: arrogance. Arrogance isn't just a mask for insecurity, it's the biggest barrier to growth and wisdom. Truly intelligent people know how to listen more than they speak, because they understand that learning is a lifelong process. Take Michael, a manager at a large corporation, for example. In every meeting, he would dominate conversations, interrupt colleagues, and even mock their ideas. Once, when the company faced a failed project, Michael blamed his team for not understanding his brilliant ideas. But in reality, it was his arrogance and refusal to listen that derailed the entire project. When his boss asked him to reflect, Michael couldn't come up with a single valid reason, as his arrogance had blinded him to any opportunity for improvement. Humility, on the other hand, is not about thinking less of yourself, but about thinking of yourself less. It prioritizes learning and collaboration over proving you're right. Stoic philosophy reminds us that wisdom comes only when we open ourselves to new perspectives, when we're brave enough to say, I was wrong, and ready to learn from our mistakes. If you ever find yourself caught in the trap of arrogance, pause and ask, am I seeking recognition, or do I genuinely want to grow? Wisdom doesn't lie in making others feel small, but in helping them feel empowered. The truly wise allow humility to guide them, because they know that real intelligence emerges when the noise of arrogance quiets down.
President, good night. Welcome. Yeah.
Hey, Lennox.
Hey.
You hear me?
Yeah, man.
What time is a raffle? we must take a chance.
If what?
There is a raffle. A raffle.
Right. Yeah, a chance game. Yes, go ahead.
A chance game.
Yeah.
But that's what our government is a raffle. Take a chance. Let me tell you something, Lennox.
And you don't do that with so much money for which you can plan and orchestrate. You don't need to raffle again. It's like a fella who takes his own salary, a certain salary, getting that every month, and then go, of course, to the casino and then chance and lose all. Yeah.
That's what them come like.
Yes, right. And people countenancing, tolerating that nonsense. We have to decondition the people to understand that it is upon them ultimately that the decision to get rid of those who obviously have demonstrated that is a chance we take in. We don't want that. What we want is certainty.
That's right. And you remember what I tell you about the stinking thing will come in?
Yeah. The sewer system. Yeah, the sewer system that is several decades old.
The whole country will start to sink over.
We deal with that tomorrow. Let me just get rid of the six signs of stupidity that, of course, are put together for Lavatil and, of course, beyond East-West Corridor. Even Tobago, I'm sure, are listening in, as well as, of course, those in the Deep South.
When you get a chance, Lennox,
yes,
I really want you to visit Apple Blossom Avenue in the Guwahati,
I will. I certainly will.
And talk to that lady. But anyhow, go ahead and do your thing.
Okay then, my friend, yes.
Right.
And you can choose to be that wise person. The fourth sign, lack of empathy. A lack of empathy is one of the clearest indicators of ignorance. It reflects an inability to step into someone else's shoes, understand their feelings, or grasp what they're going through. Without empathy, people live in isolation, disconnected from meaningful relationships, and often hurt others without even realizing it. This absence doesn't just harm relationships, it diminishes the depth of one's character. Let me tell you about a colleague named Paul. Paul had a habit of complaining about project delays without ever trying to understand the reasons behind them. Once, when a co-worker named Susan missed a deadline because her son was seriously ill, Paul publicly criticized her in front of the team. He didn't care about Susan's circumstances, only about the results he expected. A year later, when Paul found himself in a similar situation, caring for his ailing mother, he finally realized how his thoughtless criticisms had hurt others. Lack of empathy doesn't just make someone appear cold, it blinds them to opportunities for learning and growth through relationships. Stoic philosophy teaches us that true wisdom doesn't stem from knowing everything, but from connecting with others on a deep, meaningful level.
And again, we can look at the example in contemporary Trinidad and Tobago and the management of our affairs on two grounds or two levels. The government, their conduct and their action is as if to say the more punishment that they mete out by way of policies and programs, that is good government. Not empathizing with the population and recognizing that they were put here with access to our money, our resources, our land, our finances to benefit us, for them to put policies and programs to benefit us, but instead they engage in activity to deprive us, to steal from us, whilst they benefit the most, including, of course, increasing their salaries. So they're stupid in that regard. That is not wisdom. On the other hand, of course, the population, the fact that we accept that. We accept that conduct in our faces, blatantly, lucidly, conspicuously, and remain silent. No, we are saying vicariously, or as if it was us, that we accept that piece of hogwash that ought to have never been. It is not their money. It is all of us money. They cannot arrogate unto themselves the right to use our money by depriving us and utilizing, of course, mechanisms, whether it be the law enforcement agencies and the calling of a state of emergency, or paying lawyers exorbitant fees to keep us at bay and not to inquire and not to investigate and to deflect attention from that level of betrayal. No. Rowley and them not smart, they're stupid in that regard. And we must become smart by recognizing that and tell them no more, because it's we who have you there.
Those who lack empathy not only fail to enrich their spiritual lives, but also isolate themselves, leaving a lasting impression of insensitivity. Remember, empathy is not a weakness. It is the bridge to wisdom and humanity. When you pause to truly listen to someone else, you not only help them, but also gain invaluable lessons for yourself. An empathetic heart enriches your world and enables you to navigate life's complexities with grace and understanding. If you find yourself lacking empathy at times, start by listening without judgment. It's the first step toward opening your heart and mind, guiding you closer to genuine wisdom. The fifth sign, the fear of change. The comfort zone feels cozy, but it's also a prison.
Let me play that again. The fifth sign of stupidity is the fear of change. Laventil, do not be fearful of change. The change is inevitable. And whether you do it now or later, having regard to the consistency of the incompetence and the maladministration of the PNM over the years, best you do it now, because our children and our children's children will have to do it, but at a time when it may well be painful or more painful. Now is less painful. All we need to do is to take our index fingers and say to the PNM, Hayo Pancho, and dip it, of course, in favor of the UNC and or whatever configuration, and get rid of them. 5 years is not an eternity. 5 years is 5 years. Just as so you gave them several 5 years, and every 5 years there is, of course, an opportunity to change your mind. Let's say it again. What's the fifth one?
Help them, but also gain invaluable lessons for yourself. An empathetic heart enriches your world and enables you to navigate life's complexities with grace and understanding. If you find yourself lacking empathy at times, start by listening without judgment. It's the first step toward opening your heart and mind, guiding you closer to genuine wisdom. The fifth sign, the fear of change. The comfort zone feels cozy, but it's also a prison. Those who fear change cling to old habits even when they've outlived their usefulness. They're like children afraid of the dark, hesitant to step outside the familiar. But my friends, life is a river. It flows, bends, and constantly transforms. The wise learn to adapt, while the foolish try to hold water in their hands, only to watch it slip through their fingers. Take Michael, for instance, a man who spent his entire life in a small neighborhood. He knew every corner, every face in the community. When his grown children encouraged him to move to a new area for better opportunities, Michael refused. I know everyone here. Why should I go somewhere else? He said. But then the neighborhood started changing. Old friends moved away, familiar shops closed down. Michael realized that even though he resisted change, the world around him was still moving forward. Eventually, he decided to move closer to his children. Only then did he discover that the new environment not only brought comfort, but also opened up opportunities he'd never imagined.
I don't have to say more. Kamla Prasad Bisasa, the UNC, are the new opportunities, are the transformation or the transformative element that is missing. Once, of course, Lavatil and the East-West Corridor and those constituencies that have been plagued and dominated by the PNM, believing that somehow that you are a voter bank for them, and that they give you an idea that suggests that they are an African man party, and therefore, of course, the color of your skin and texture of hair is what is required. Whilst, of course, you are getting, of course, no work because of the lack of opportunities, because the PNM has not been able so to create. You are paying higher prices, your cost of living is increasing, and of course you are plagued on a daily basis and by the minute with crime and criminality, particularly those in what I consider to be African or black communities. Come on. And then of course they take their conduct into, of course, traditionally peaceful, calm and law-abiding communities by, of course, engaging in criminal acts, whether it be in the form of kidnapping or in the form of housebreaking or in the form of course, home invasion. Understand that. Why not embrace that which is different but has proven between 2010 and 2015 to be the panacea that is required to move Trinidad and Tobago forward? Why not? Why live in that paradigm paralysis? Paradigm paralysis when you have all to gain by voting for the UNC and whatever configuration that emerges in the next elections.
The fear of change doesn't just keep us in the safe zone, it also prevents us from exploring greater possibilities. Stoic philosophy teaches us that change is inevitable, and only by embracing it with an open heart can we truly live a full life. If you find yourself avoiding change, ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? And what's the best that could happen? Life doesn't stand still, and if you don't learn to go with the flow, you'll be left behind. Remember, change is a step toward growth, while resisting it only keeps you stagnant in fear. The sixth sign.
Growth. Growth, we're talking about evolution, advancement for Lavatil and the East-West Corridor and the African community in general. And addressing, of course, the question of crime and criminality, health, education, sports, youth activities, social welfare, development, and we can go on and on.
Talking more than listening. Have you ever seen a family member who insists they know everything? They dominate every conversation, interrupt constantly, and rarely take the time to listen to others. This is a clear sign of someone who talks more than they listen, a hallmark of foolishness. They love the sound of their own voice, often disregarding others' perspectives, which not only creates tension, but also damages family relationships. Let me share a story about John, a father I once knew. Every evening at dinner, John would monopolize the conversation. His kids tried to share their experiences from school, but John frequently interrupted to recount his great stories. When his wife suggested changes to improve the family's financial situation, John dismissed her ideas outright, insisting his way was the only way. The tragic part was that John didn't realize how much his behavior was making his family feel unheard and unvalued. His lack of listening created a rift, leaving everyone feeling overlooked and disrespected. Listening isn't passive. It's an active skill that requires genuine attention and respect for others. Stoic philosophy reminds us that listening is the pathway to learning and growth. In silence, we find deep understanding and wisdom. Conversely, talking without listening is like sowing seeds in barren soil. Nothing will ever grow. If you see yourself in John's story, now is the time to change. Next time your child shares about their day or your spouse offers their thoughts, pause and truly listen. Don't just wait for your turn to talk. Try to understand. By doing so, you'll not only improve family relationships, but also create an environment of love and mutual respect. Remember, the wise person listens, the foolish one only talks. So we've walked through the 6 signs of a stupid person.
Yesterday, of course, we have come to the end. The 6 signs, of course, the last one clearly could be nestled, or should I say placed or attached to the PNM in government. They don't listen. They just impose and believe that we must accept. But then, of course, in your own respective communications, you don't want to listen to what the UNC have to say because the PNM leadership say don't listen. And so, of course, you live in your own cocoon of destruction. You live in your own cocoon of disaster. You live in your own cocoon of course, contributing to the decadence and the turmoil and the destruction and disaster that is, of course, Trinidad and Tobago today because of the presence of the PNM, should I say, misfortune. The PNM misfortune. So people, of course, have a wonderful one. I trust that you would have gleaned a lot of information tonight in terms, of course, what has to be done, why it is that the PNM see you as a stupid person, and why you yourself accept yourself as a stupid person, even though, of course, you talk and say that you are wise by attaching, of course, yourself to the PNM and not giving yourself, of course, the opportunity for change. You cannot, as some people say, do the same thing over and over, particularly where it is negative and expect a different result. No, that's a fool. Yes, that's a fool. The PNM, of course, tells you that they could solve crime over and over and over, but they have the highest record of any government ever in Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm sure in the future, because that record will be sustained, it will remain, because the UNC will come into office, all 39 seats in Trinidad. All 39, and I expect Laventille to be part and parcel of it. People have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless you. Don't forget, of course, no ground report tomorrow, but certainly corridor tomorrow night. I want to say to you that, of course, those young people who would have graduated from the trade schools that we had developed on the basis of the community, for the community and by the community, and those of you who are now, of course, adults and have your own lives and families, etc., and you still either remain in or you have migrated out of Laventille, we expect that you will communicate the number, get me directly, 337-6940. Every Laventillian, as far as I am concerned, and we are concerned in Love Laventille Outreach for Vertical Enrichment, is a member, and therefore the time has come for us to understand. And yes, challenge me. Ask me which of the modules that is dedicated to Betham, Sealats, Observatory Street, Belmont, Laventille on the Hill, Laventille on the Flats. We will give you all of that because we have a 1,000-page document that is before right now the UNC. And that is what, of course, impressed Kamala Prasad Bisesa because it is about, of course, a coalition of what? Of interests. And our interests is for the advancement, development, emancipation, intellectual and practical and economic advancement of everyone. And as I've always said, if I had the chance, because of who we are, we gave the country its national culture, steel band and calypso. We gave the country, of course, carnival. We lay claim to it, otherwise there wouldn't be Cambole to start the carnival in East Port of Spain. So we lay claim to it. But we have not, of course, gained the economic benefits of the evolution of that particular festivity. In fact, it has migrated to the west, and the businesses to the west of Port of Spain laugh all the way to the bank on Ash Wednesday, whilst, of course, we continue to be mired in tragic circumstance, whether infrastructure, whether it be homes, whether oversized family, or whether, of course, crime and criminality, and, of course, a borderline issue, as well as that of those persons who would have been engaged in gang warfare. We also have, of course, the additional issue of police and law enforcement in either disrespect or they move in greater force and without any kind of, what I consider be consequences if one of our citizens or community members would have been shot or killed. That's a waste time. And as a community, we know that the criminal elements and those who may engage, of course, in what I consider to be subterranean cultural activities, meaning that they are antisocial, but they are part of the community, and therefore we must find ways and means of treating with that and working with them in order, of course, to transform them and show them a better quality of life and standard of living and opportunities, of course, to maintain their life, because every human being needs food, shelter, clothing, and some entertainment. It is against that background, therefore, I say to you that all of us are in this together, whether you are from Laventille, or you are from Arima, or you are from Sandy Grande, or you are from Couva, or you are from Labre, or you are from Point 14, Cedros, etc. We need to understand that, of course, Tobago is our brothers as well. But, of course, Tobago has a tremendous lesson that we must glean or learn from. And that is that they too would have been subjected, of course, to 21 years of the PNM. And then, of course, they summarily rejected the PNM. Even in circumstances where the PNM tried under Rowley, Tobagonian himself, to try to hoodwink and get an unfair advantage by going to the parliament, utilizing, of course, a very, very slim majority, only 21 seats at the time, 22 seats at the time. And, of course, impose 3 additional seats in a way to, of course, ensure that the deadlock that preceded that 6-6 scenario, that they would have, of course, benefited from it. But the people had a different thought, a different objective, a different rationale. And they, of course, rejected summarily. They're lucky they get 1 seat. I'm talking about the PNM. They're lucky they get 1 seat, but it was 14-1. We must make it, of course, in Trinidad, 39-none. We must have, of course, Laventille on board. We must have both Laventille East and West, because we gave, apart from, of course, the greatest and most significant and newest percussion instrument in the 20th and 21st century now, the steel pan, we can do it again. We have created, of course, our own political machinery, Love, Laventille Outreach for Vertical Enrichment, led by yours truly. But this is not a Lennox Smith initiative. This is a Laventille initiative to show, of course, that we still have the capacity to lead. And we will continue to lead. And we will take the initiative to lead. And we will, of course, transform that place and therefore address the crime on a sustained basis, crime and criminality, blue-collar crime in particular, on a permanent basis. We cannot rely on the PNM, because the PNM have disappointed and have, of course, undermined and have, of course, betrayed us. It was Camille Robinson Regis who said that of persons who may be not just dishonest, but persons who would have betrayed. She said of them, it is worse than witchcraft. Yes, she said so. And she likes, of course, to bring and mock the Baptist community by bringing out, of course, a cocaine broom and sweeping, symbolizing some kind of iniquity must be swept out. I say that it must boomerang on her because it's the PNM that must be swept out, the jettison, and, of course, annihilated. It must be relegated to the dustbin of political history in this country, Laventille. Laventille, it was we who saved the PNM. Laventille, it was we who gave them a lease on life. Laventille, it was us who, of course, give them the ability to manage the affairs of Trinidad and Tobago up to today. And yet still they have returned it, of course, with ache, pain, agony, stress, strain, and, of course, all kinds of negativities across the human expectation realm, if you want to call it that. Because when we expected, of course, a better infrastructure, when we expected the better development as far as, of course, relationship with the law enforcement, as far as our educational opportunities, and, of course, the facilities, in terms, of course, of the other aspects of our life, and to make it, of course, the quality of life much more salubrious and manageable. Like, for example, they have treated us with the lack of employment opportunities and, of course, insult us with URP and CPEP. Oh, gosh, boy. We can do better. We must do better. We have a duty and responsibility to ourselves and our community and our country to do better. And so I leave with you tonight as we return tomorrow night. And we will continue, of course, to treat with these matters. Tomorrow night, of course, we'll talk about another philosophical principle as to why people, for example, look at you as a fool, or why must we resist such persons, etc., as we continue with the series. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless, and see you tomorrow night as we continue with these and other issues that are of concern to all of us.
Millions of dollars. Don't trust none of them. Them is the real problem. They're doing me what they want, so let me vote of them. We not voting them for King's PNM. We not voting them for King's PNM. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Forrest, King Stuart, living high, dictatorship style, putting tears in the poor people's eyes. We not voting them for King's PNM. We not voting them for King's PNM. For them out, they go Martin West. For them out, they go Martin East. For them out, San Fernando West. St. Anne's West, Forest Bay North. Vote them out, vote them out, vote them out, vote them out, vote them out. Rowley, acting like a dictator. He and Maduro moving together. They bring down Rodriguez and be citizens, all they crying tears. They want the US to sanction we, cause more poverty. They're doing we what they want, so let me vote out them. We not voting them for King's PNM. We not voting them for King's PNM. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Forrest, King Stuart, living high, dictatorship style, putting dollars. Don't trust none of them. Them is the real problem. They're doing me what they want, so they be vote of them. We not voting them for King's PNM. We not voting them for King's PNM. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Farras, King Stuart, living high, dictatorship style, putting tears in the poor people's eyes. We not voting them for King's PNM. We not voting them for King's PNM.
For them all they go Martin West. For them all they go Martin East. For them all San Fernando West. St. John's West. For Spain North. Vote them out. Vote them out. Vote them out. Vote them out. Vote them out.
Rowley acting like a dictator. He and Maduro moving together. They bring down Delcy Rodriguez and be citizens, oh they crying tears. They want the US to sanction we, cause more poverty. They're doing we what they want, so they be vote of them. We not voting them for King's PNM. We not voting them for King's PNM. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Farras, King Stuart, living high, dictatorship style, putting tears in the poor people's eyes. We not voting them for King's PNM. We not voting them for King's PNM.
For them all they go Martin West. For them all they go Martin East. For them all San Fernando West. St. John's West. For Spain North. Vote them out. Vote them out. Vote them out. Vote them out. Vote them out.
Stuart Young, minister of everything. He is the king of lying. Don't talk about the buck Imbert, bumping up big gum like an old goat.
Talk too much.
Don't talk about Al Rawi, he lacking integrity. 23 million rent and we can't get off a cent. We not voting them for King's PNM. We not voting them for King's PNM. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Farras, King Stuart, living high, dictatorship style, putting tears in the poor people's eyes.